Today, we're going to explore a book that has made waves around the world. A title that sounds a bit rebellious, but contains profound practical lessons. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***ck by Mark Manson. The title might make it seem as if the author is advising us to become indifferent or uncaring. But the core message is the exact opposite. This isn't a book about caring about nothing. It's about caring the right way, caring about what truly matters in our lives. Mark Manson writes with a blunt, humorous, sometimes nonchalant voice. Yet the knowledge he shares is crystal clear and touches problems all of us face. I'll share 7 key lessons I find most valuable from this book, hoping they'll give you a fresher perspective on life. Lesson 1. Don't try, accept harsh truths. To begin, Mark Manson tells a fascinating story about the poet Charles Bukowski. He was an alcoholic, a gambler, and for decades his work was rejected by most publishers. People called his writing vulgar, disgusting. His life sank under failure and self-loathing. Yet at age 50, an editor gave him a single chance. Bukowski wrote his first novel in 3 weeks. He became a famous writer and poet, selling millions of copies. Sounds like a story of someone who never gave up, always tried hard, and finally achieved his dream. Right? Strangely, his tombstone is engraved with, "Don't try." Manson explains that Bukowski's success didn't come from trying to be a winner, but from knowing he was a screw-up, accepting it, and writing honestly about it. He never tried to be anything other than himself. Our culture today is often obsessed with unrealistically positive expectations. Be happier, healthier, the best, smarter, richer, more attractive. Ironically, fixating on these positives constantly reminds us of what we lack. It creates a vicious cycle Manson calls the feedback loop from hell. You worry about worrying, get angry about being angry, feel sad about being sad. Think about it. Does a truly happy person need to stand in front of a mirror and tell themselves they're happy? No, they're simply happy. The core lesson. The desire for more positive experiences is itself a negative experience. And, paradoxically, accepting negative experiences is itself a positive experience. Philosopher Alan Watts called this the backwards law. The more you chase wealth, the poorer you feel. The more you chase attractiveness, the uglier you feel. Everything worthwhile in life comes with negative experiences attached. Trying to avoid pain is a form of pain. Avoiding struggle is a struggle. Denying failure is a failure. So what does not giving a F***ck really mean? It's not apathy. Apathetic people are often weak and afraid. Not giving a F***ck means you embrace your differences and you're willing to face adversity for goals and values that matter more. Lesson 2. Happiness is a problem. Pain is necessary. Manson begins this chapter with the story of Prince Siddhartha, who would become the Buddha. Born in a palace and sheltered by his father so he would never know suffering, he still felt empty and worthless. After venturing out and witnessing human suffering, he abandoned everything to live in extreme asceticism, hoping to find meaning. But he realized that asceticism didn't deliver enlightenment either. Suffering without purpose has no value. Ultimately, he recognized a deep truth. Life itself is a form of suffering. The rich suffer because of their wealth. The poor suffer because of their poverty. Everyone must endure. Happiness is not a solvable equation. Dissatisfaction and discomfort are inherent to human nature and are essential to creating durable happiness. Manson asserts, problems never end. They only get exchanged or upgraded. Happiness comes from solving problems. If you avoid problems or feel you have no problems, you'll suffer. If you have problems but feel you can't solve them, you'll also suffer. The secret is in solving problems, not in having none to begin with. Don't hope for a life without problems. That doesn't exist. Hope for a life full of good problems. Manson introduces the fictional character, Disappointment Panda, who tells you harsh but necessary truths. He says, "We suffer for the simple reason that suffering is biologically useful. It's nature's preferred agent of change. Physical pain, like stubbing a toe, or psychological pain, like rejection, are feedback mechanisms that help us learn and grow. Emotions are signals, not commands. We shouldn't always believe them. We need the habit of questioning them. Obsessing over and over relying on emotions makes us fail. Because emotions never last. So the important question is, what pain do you want to endure in life? What are you willing to struggle for? Because that is the bigger determinant of our lives. Manson shares that he once dreamed of being a rock star, but he only loved the result, the stage image. Not the process, practice. Forming a band, facing difficulties. So he failed. Who you are is defined by the things you're willing to struggle for. Lesson 3. You are not special, except being average. Let's meet Jimmy, a character Manson uses to illustrate a common modern problem. Jimmy boasts about his amazing business projects, exudes positivity and confidence. In reality, he mooches off family and his girlfriend. With no meaningful achievements, Jimmy believes people who laugh at him don't understand his genius, and those who criticize his lifestyle are jealous. In the 1960s, the idea of high self-esteem became popular in psychology. People believed that making everyone feel good about themselves would yield social benefits. Schools even created participation awards, so kids would feel special. Later generations, however, showed the opposite pattern. Not all of us are special. Merely feeling good about yourself means nothing unless you have a solid reason to do so. Adversity and failure are genuinely useful and necessary to develop into strong, successful adults. Teaching people they're special in every circumstance produced a generation full of people like Jimmy. The problem with the self-esteem movement is that it measured self-worth by how positive people felt about themselves. A better measure is how we relate to our negative aspects. Jimmy escapes his problems by inventing imaginary successes, which makes him weak. A person with truly high self-worth can face their flaws squarely and act to improve them. The internet and social media have pulled us into a monopoly of the extraordinary. We are deluged with images and stories of the most successful, beautiful, talented people. This makes us feel inadequate. Being average has become the new standard of failure. Many fear accepting mediocrity, thinking that if they accept it, they'll never achieve anything. Yet those who become truly exceptional aren't that way because they believed they were special. On the contrary, they become great because they're obsessed with improving, driven by the firm belief that they're not that good yet, that they're still average, and they can be much better. For mental health, we must accept some simple, boring truths of life. Your actions aren't that important in the grand scheme of things. Most of your life will be mundane and unremarkable, and that's perfectly fine. Lesson 4. The value of suffering, responsibility, and choosing values. The story of Lieutenant Hiru Onoda is another powerful example. A Japanese soldier stranded on Lubang Island, Philippines, after World War II. He kept fighting long after the war ended, believing surrender announcements were American traps. He lived 30 years in the jungle, eating insects and mice, even killing civilians, all because of the order to never surrender. When he returned to Japan in 1974, he was shocked to see a consumerist, capitalist society that had lost the honor and sacrifice his generation was raised on. His greatest pain wasn't the 30 years in the jungle, it was realizing his fight had become meaningless. The question isn't, how do I stop suffering, but what am I suffering for? To understand this, we look at the self-awareness onion. First layer. Understand your emotions. I feel happy when. Many of us don't even do this well. Second layer. Ask why you feel those emotions. This reveals root causes and allows change. Third, deepest layer. Your personal values. Why do I consider this a success, failure? By what standard am I judging myself? This is the hardest yet most important layer. Because our values determine the nature of our problems. And the nature of our problems determines the quality of our lives. Mark Manson discusses shitty values. Pleasure. A poor value to prioritize life around. It's the shallowest form of satisfaction. Easy come, easy go. Pleasure is a result, not a cause, of happiness. Material success. Beyond basic needs. There's no significant correlation between money and happiness. Overvaluing material success can make you neglect other important values like honesty and compassion. Always being right. If you measure life by always being right, you'll struggle. Humans err. Admitting you don't know helps you learn and grow. Constant positivity. Denying negative emotions leads to deeper, longer-lasting negativity. Sometimes life is bad, and the healthiest thing is to acknowledge it. Negative emotions are a necessary part of emotional health. So what are good values? They should be 1. Reality-based. 2. Socially constructive. And 3. Immediate and controllable. Examples: honesty, initiative, vulnerability, self-respect, curiosity, generosity, humility, creativity. These are usually developed from the inside out. William James, the father of American psychology, lived with illness and failure. He fell into depression and contemplated suicide. One night he made an experiment. For 1 year, he would live as if he were fully responsible for everything in his life, regardless of external circumstances. That shift helped him rebirth and achieve great things. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we interpret what happens and how we respond. Responsibility and fault are not the same. Fault belongs to the past, responsibility belongs to the present. The more responsibility we accept, the more power we gain over our lives. Lesson 5. Failure is the way forward. The do something principle. Failure is unavoidable and essential to growth. Picasso once said it took him 60 years to paint a 2-minute painting. The point is that improvement in anything rests on thousands of small failures. We often fear failure because of the bad values we chose. If you measure your worth by, everyone must like me, you'll be anxious, because that metric is 100% defined by other people's actions. By contrast, good values are process-oriented, without a finish line, and help us keep growing. Manson offers a highly effective rule, the do something principle. Action is not only the consequence of motivation, it's also the cause. We think we need inspiration or motivation first, then action. Manson flips it. Action right pointing arrow, inspiration right pointing arrow, motivation. If you lack motivation to make an important change, do something, anything, and then use the feedback from that action to generate motivation. It can be the smallest act. If you want to develop compassion, set a tiny goal. Listen to someone's problem and spend a little time helping. Just do it once. These small acts trigger a snowball effect that keeps you going. Lesson 6. The importance of saying no, commitment and boundaries. Mark Manson once lived a nomadic lifestyle, traveling to 55 countries in 5 years, seeking new experiences. At first, it felt like freedom. Over time, he realized that absolute freedom, by itself, is meaningless. Meaning and a sense of significance arise when we reject alternatives, narrow our freedom, and commit to a place, a belief, or a person. We're defined by what we choose to say no to. If we refuse to reject anything, perhaps out of fear of being rejected, we don't develop a real identity. Avoiding rejection brings short-term comfort but long-term drift. To truly appreciate something, you must limit yourself to it. Commitment yields a richness of opportunities and experiences you cannot get by chasing breadth without depth. This lesson is about boundaries in relationships. Unhealthy love is when two people try to escape their own problems through the feelings they have for each other. Healthy love is when two people acknowledge and work on their own problems, with each other's support. The difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships lies in two things: the degree to which each person accepts responsibility, and each person's willingness to say no and be told no by their partner. Without conflict, there can be no trust. Conflict is necessary to maintain a healthy relationship because it shows who truly stands with you unconditionally. Honesty matters more than constantly keeping the other person comfortable. Lesson 7. And then you die, a value compass. This final, perhaps deepest lesson. Manson writes about the sudden death of his friend Josh. Josh's death completely changed him, from a lazy, irresponsible guy into someone more responsible, curious, and hardworking. Death scares us, but it is also the light by which the darkness of life's meanings is measured. Without death, everything would be meaningless. Pulitzer-winning philosopher Ernest Becker proposed immortality projects. Humans uniquely imagine their own deaths, producing a deep fear of death. To cope, we build a conceptual self that outlives our physical body. Legacy. Influence. A big family. These projects are our values in action. But Becker saw that these immortality projects are the problem, not the solution. He called accepting the reality of one's own death the bitter antidote. Once we accept death, we can choose our values more freely, not shackled by a senseless quest for immortality. And we are freed from dangerous